Hey guys, welcome back to Data Mining and Predictive Analytics. I am Dr. Bolton, and today I'm going to talk to you guys, introduce you guys to R and Rstudio, or what is now called Possit, and kind of give you my arguments for why I think this is an extremely powerful programming language, one of the best ones out there on the market today for doing all kinds of statistical programming. So let's jump right into it. All right. So what is R? R is a computing language that allows us to be able to create program algorithms and use tools that are programmed by others. All right. So this is a nice, easy way to say that this is a high-level programming language. All right. So when you think about other programming languages that are more fundamental, like C++ or even Java to some degree, those are low-level programming languages. R allows us to interact with a user interface in a language that doesn't require a whole lot of base programming knowledge. So you don't need to know things about how the program compiles or how it operates with operating systems in order to get into it and actually utilize the tools that are in there. So a lot of things that we can do with R, these are just some of the basic things. So when we have a collection of data and we've extracted that information from, say, a database or some other data storage area, I can then bring it into this programming language and do things like calculations, statistics, create different types of graphics, plots, what have you. All right, I can even write my own functions within this language. All right, and create my own code. So if there is code out there, for instance, it doesn't exactly do what I want it to do, all right, that someone else has written, I can write my own and create my own functions. And so just to give you guys a little idea, the reason why I've chosen R for this particular series of lectures and for this course is that it's used all across the board in many different industries. And so this is a survey that was taken back in 2022. All right. I've got the links here for this if you want to go explore it a little bit more. But as you can see, R is used across several different platforms or different areas of industry. So for corporate industry, you can see both R and Python are very similar. You've probably heard of the Python programming language from week one, if you remember that. And I talked about how R and Python are very similar in their high-level language programming. But both these languages are used almost pretty exclusively, taking up 50% of corporate industry and the programming languages that are used in the corporate industry. Same thing with consulting. So if you're thinking about going into consulting or going out into industry in some kind of way, you're going to see that you're going to either use Python or R mostly exclusively for these different industries. And then in our government area, you can see R is definitely dominating both the government and academic sectors. So that's kind of why I've chosen this language. It's a very easy language to get into, to get started with. And if you guys are going to be around in academics or going into government, it's very likely that you're going to use this type of programming language if you take any kind of data science position, data analytics position within any one of these sectors. Looking a little bit more closely at the word data science, all right, and how it's being applied as we look at corporate industry and the consulting industry. And so what areas do we see that data science is typically being applied? Obviously, in corporate or industry, sales and marketing is a big area that is now utilizing data science to be able to get insider information. Most of us now have personalized ads. In our social media profiles, you can get all these ads that are catered to your personal interest, good or bad, but it's used a lot in sales and marketing. Also in the finance sector as well. As far as consultant, banks are using this, so financial services using this is on the rise. But also we see as it pertains to biomedical informatics and healthcare and technology and IT are all starting to utilize more and more data science into their everyday practices. And so now we see that has been on the rise for the last couple years as well. Mm-hmm. I always like to have this slide in there. It kind of shows you guys, a little bit about the job market for using data science or programming languages. As we see here for informatics or information research scientists, you can stand to make a pretty good amount of money coming out of college. And then also if we looked at Indeed.com and their trends, obviously data science, anything to have to do with R or SAS or any of these big data statistic analytics, all right, all of those jobs are on the rise and continue to be on the rise. And so if you guys are thinking about where am I going to get a good job or a high paying job when I get out of college, right, this area is definitely one area that you should definitely look into. And then when we look at when these people get jobs, right, and how satisfied they are in having jobs, if we look at 2017, pretty good numbers there. But as we see, as it pertains to data science professionals, all right, very high job satisfaction. Even in 2017, I would say that those are pretty good numbers, all right, in each one of these areas, industry, consulting, government, and academics. But you can see we even did a little bit better in 2020 as far as the satisfaction. People are very, very satisfied with their jobs in industry, consulting, government, and academics. So what's the catch? So I told you a little bit, great job satisfaction, great opportunities to get a job. And so what's some of the downfalls to this? So what is the catch when trying to learn a programming language, or in this instance, R? Well, R does have a little bit of a steep learning curve. It does require you to learn some type of programming. But the nice thing about, like I said, R is that a lot of the stuff is very similar across any programming language that you use. All right. And so I don't want you guys to really get wrapped up in the syntax of the R programming language. It is a little bit unique, and we'll talk about that. But I want you guys to really focus on what you're trying to do, all right, and then finding the code that you need to be able to do the things that you want to do. And especially in R and Python, a lot of this stuff has already been done for you, all right? So these statistical tools that we're going to use already exist within the language. It's just your job to go in and try to use these tools to manipulate and do the things that you want to do to extract the information that you want to get in your assignments. And so what does R look like? All right. So if you go to CRAN, rproject.org, all right, you can download R. All right. So R is a statistical programming language. It's been around in this form for about 25 years or so. It started off as a programming language called S, all right? And the reason why I like R is that it was designed by programmers early in the 70s and things like that were doing all these different things with data. And they needed a new language. The languages that were out there that they had access to didn't allow them to do the things that they wanted to do. So they built this program called S. And it was actually built by statisticians, and so they were the ones that designed it, and so it's kind of rooted in that statistical world, which I like. All right, and so R has been around, like I said, in the flavor that we have now for about 25 years, so it's been around for a good long while. All right, and you can go to the website here, and you can and if you have a Mac or a Windows operating system, you can download the console. And it'll look very much like this. So if you install it, open it up, you should get a window that looks very similar to what is on your screen here. All right. The thing is that that's kind of boring, all right, in a lot of ways, and allows it, and we're limited on what we can actually do through. So there's not a whole lot of troubleshooting, and there's not a whole lot of things where you can code, or you can save variables and things like that, but you need to know how to access those variables in limited ways. So the user friendliness of this is not very good, right? So Rstudio is what we call an integrated development environment, or an IDE. All right, and so many of you guys have probably heard of this before. An IDE is an environment that allows you to utilize the R programming language, all right, but interact with the language in a way that is a little bit more user friendly, all right. So we end up getting a lot more tools. You still get the console like I showed you on the last slide, but now you get a lot of different things like an editor that allows you to support your code and execute it and store that code in a certain way. You always get some plotting tools, debugging, and then managing different workspaces and things like that. So while the R console is very nice and very easy to use and deploy on an operating system, all right, and Rstudio allows you to really interact with the language. And if you go in the industry or you go to consulting or you go into the corporate world, all right, you're going to be using IDEs. You're not usually going to be using just a base frame model for whatever language you're using. So it is good to start to get used to using an IDE to interact with your languages. And they all exist out there for different programming languages. And so Rstudio is one. It's also called Posset now, all right? And so you'll hear those two words kind of interchangeably throughout this stuff. If you want to install Rstudio, it's very easy. You can go to this website and download this onto your desktop. And so if you have a computer or a laptop, all right, this link will take you to the website. You download it, and it will be installed onto your device. And they have it for Mac, they have it for Windows, and I think they have it for Linux as well. And so you can download this, keep it on your desktop, and interact it with the R language. And so this is a much better, much easier environment to utilize. We'll go through some of this stuff, and I've got some nice slides that show you guys how to what all these different windows are and tabs are. All right. Rstudio Cloud, all right, is another nice product that is out there. It's a lightweight cloud-based solution, all right, which is something I like in this cloud in this course is introducing you guys to cloud-based solutions out there. And so Rstudio Cloud or Posset Cloud, I've got the link here. You can go there, and it allows you to register. You sign up. You create an account, all right, and then what you have, and you log in, and you have access to an Rstudio IDE directly from your web browser. And so I like this because you get some added benefits to doing an Rstudio Cloud. One is you can share your project across a team, right? Two is you can access your project from any computer that has a web browser, right? So no matter whether you're working in the labs on campus or you're working at home in your dorm room or in your apartment, all right, you can access Rstudio Cloud and start working within your platform and working on your projects or working in a team or whatever. And so this is a very nice addition, and it's really good. We'll look at it, and it's very nice environment to have all of your projects and everything working together. So looking at Rstudio a little bit more, I want you guys to get familiar with it. All right, so there'll be some assignments for you to be able to work on this and get your Rstudio Cloud up and going. All right, but within here, I've got this nice little reference slide here for you guys to be able to look at. Each one of the windows here. This is your coding window up in the top left-hand corner where you can actually have all of your R files. So R uses the proprietary script for a .r file. All right, and so those are the files that you're going to have for your R code. All right, we'll talk about another language that integrates well with R, and that's called Markdown. We'll talk about that as well. Markdown is another nice language that allows you to be able to create nice reports using R, and that's usually how you're going to be turning in a lot of assignments is through Markdown. And so you can keep all your code, keep track of all your code, comment all your code, have all your functions here within your scripts. All right, save those within your files. And then you also get a console down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So down in the bottom left-hand corner is going to be your console. It's a console just like you would use in R, all right, but allows you to be able to see when you're running your code from your scripts and executing your code in the console area, all right. You also get environmental tabs that show you all of your variables that are being stored, all of your functions, all of your data objects, everything that you're working with or creating or saving, all right, will be stored in your environmental tab. You can also import data here. I prefer you guys import it from your scripts, all right, but it does allow you a nice little GUI interface to be able to import data sets, clean up objects as you need to keep your environment nice and neat, okay? You also get a file window. We'll talk about the differences. There are some differences between using the cloud-based version of Rstudio and the desktop version of Rstudio because obviously your directories are different. One's up on the cloud, one is being stored directly onto your desktop. So there are some subtle differences between the two that you need to know that we'll take a look at and discuss as well. All right. But you can create new folders, all right, keep things organized, all in the files tabs, upload data into the directories, manage your directories, all from this window here. There's a plots tab that allows you to look at your plots as you create them. So if you create a plot, it creates a plot, and we'll show you what that actually looks like in the plots tab. Packages. So in R, packages are a collection of methods and functions that are designed to do specific tasks, all right? And those packages are usually built by other programmers. You can create your own packages, but a lot of packages that we'll be accessing to do different data manipulation, data access, and then data statistics on all of this stuff. So the packages we'll be using in there, show you how to interact with those. And then let's see what else. That's pretty much it for this is what you need to know. It'll be much more integrating as you start to work with the R environment, get to know this and explore this a little bit more, okay? This talks a little about more about the windows, the package manager, all right, the documentation. You can look at all these. There are a few specific terms that are unique for programming languages, and I just need you guys to know these as we begin to discuss them. You'll want to know these for when you start working in the environment. All right. So data objects, these are different data types that are not necessarily proprietary towards R programming language. These data types exist in all programming languages, but it is important for you guys to understand them. Logicals are Boolean operators that either return a true or false statement. And so these can be true, false, male, female, 1, 0. I mean, they're usually just Boolean operators, all right, as a logical. Numeric values are real numbers. You can either have floating points or you can have doubles. Integers are whole numbers, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can be negative. You can have be 0 as well. And then complex numbers, all right, usually have an I to indicate their complex values. Characters and then functions are usually just a collection of arbitrary R expressions. And so we talk about functions. You're going to be using a lot of functions in the R programming language to do all kinds of things, but you can also write your own functions as well. So there's user functions that you may need to create as well, and those come across as objects. So if you create a function, it will become an object as well. All right. Couple different classes, especially for data storage. These are important, especially as you start pulling data into your environment and starting to access it, manipulate it, create your own data objects. But a vector, all right, is a one-dimensional array. All right, so it is an array that has each element needs to be of the same data type. All right, so if I have a numeric vector, all right, each element in that array or in that vector is going to be a numeric. All right, I can't have a vector that is a numeric, all right, a character, a logical, or whatever. They can't be mixed elements in there. It have to be the same. All right, so numeric, 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 or character, 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 character. So all the elements have to be the same in that vector. All right. A matrix is just a two-dimensional array where all of the elements have to be the same. All right. So a matrix has now not only rows, but now has columns associated with it, right? And each one of those columns has to be of the same data type, right? So I have to have a numeric matrix where all of the elements are numeric, or I can have a character matrix where all of the elements are a character, all right? But they can't be mixed. And then an array is just a generic term for anything. You'll sometimes hear me use it interchangeably between arrays and vectors and things like that, but it's usually anything beyond 2 dimensions, but the elements have to be of the same data type, all right? So you sometimes hear array and vector and matrix used interchangeably. Now, a data frame is something that's a little bit more unique for data storage. The data frame came about because we needed a class, we needed an object that we would be able to store information that was going to be mixed, all right? So a lot of times when we're accessing tables, they're not just all numeric tables or all character tables, right? Sometimes they're all mixed up. All right, and so a data frame allows us to create a two-dimensional array where the elements can be different, but your columns have to be of the same data type. All right, so I can have a character column, all right, which might be like my first name, the first names of all these people, right? But then I might have a numeric column that is like the age, all right, or their date of birth or something like that. And so when we're mixing these columns that have different data types, all right, that's called a data frame, all right? And so each of these classes, each of these objects have different properties about them, different ways to access the information in them, and different ways to manipulate the data that's in them. So it's important to distinguish these two. A list is a generic vector or a generic object where each of the elements can be of any data type, all right? And so I can have a list where the first element is, say, a vector, all right? And just a one-dimensional array. But then the next element might be a matrix, all right? Where I have a two-dimensional array of, maybe that's all characters. Maybe my first vector was all numeric, all right, elements. But then my second matrix was all, my second element, which was a matrix, was all characters. All right, having data frame. I can have a list within a list, all right? And so a list is a very powerful object in any programming language, in R specifically, because a lot of times when we're building more complex models, machine learning models, and putting information into the model, all right, a lot of the times the output of that model will be a list, all right? And so a lot of times you get information about your model and it comes in a list, and a lot of them, so your main body that you want to look at might be a matrix or a data frame or something like that. But then you'll have all this other metadata within your model that's telling you information, statistics about your major data type or your major portion of your return. And so, again, a lot of machine learning models will return back lists, and so those are important to understand. Factors are just category variables that have different defined levels. All right, and we'll talk more about factor variables later on. But when we start working with machine learning models, you have to have, especially for your supervised learning models, you need to have a category of some elements. All right, and a factor variable is usually what you'll be using there. But we'll talk about all these. But these are important data types, data objects that I want you guys to know about. Within the R, you're going to be using these, manipulating these in all kinds of ways. And so it's important for you guys to understand how you or what data types you'll be accessing. Again, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. But that's all I got for you guys today. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.